Hello Aquarius, welcome to the Plaid Sheep Oracle. And you have a deeply mystical reading. I often talk about how signs get distorted or pigeonholed. I think that Aquarius, because it's associated with the future, it has a tendency to be, the idea of technology or space and aliens and computers and these kinds of things. Ziggy Stardust. That I think it skews our idea of what Aquarius can be and how Aquarius can show up in the world and how it can show up in your own chart. Now it's interesting because next July, the North Node will move into Aquarius. So I think that there is an opportunity now to sort of prepare for that, especially if you have a North Node in Aquarius. We've had this theme of homecoming, of returning to the self that's been showing up, and it reappears here. We have this spirit of gratitude. And this is not so much an instruction or a suggestion as it is an experience. And I think that maybe you are either experiencing this now or you are about to. This feels very much like you're on this little tipping point and you're about to tip over into this understanding. Of yourself, of reality. The scene underlying here is birds of a feather. But what's interesting is that what's underneath it is this close encounters. And I think you're well aware of your tribe or wanting to have a tribe, the people around you, community, friends. But there's something in the close, right? Those close encounters. There's something that is coming through that is deeper than that. And we actually have below that healing the heart. And I'm going to go one more with this burst of magic. And then at the bottom is this wish upon a star with your hands on your heart. I think that a wish that you've had for a long time, maybe since you were conceived, even. But a wish that you've had for a long time is now getting itself seen. That it's been there under the surface for a long time. And now it's getting itself seen. And you are feeling real gratitude for many things, I think. We have share your bounty. And the bounty thing, I think, here is this gratitude, this altered attitude toward everything. Under this we have transform. And we actually have below that, we have reveal the lies. And I think, you know, lies aren't always deliberate. Someone might tell you something that they really think is true and it's not. You know, I don't want there to be any sense of anger or resentment about anything. And the word lies, right? They've been telling you lies. Right? There's a flavor to that. And that's not it. It's just seeing what was false. The bottom is moonbathe in hope. And sharing your bounty is sharing this understanding, this attitude, this state of being. That has this understanding about the world and about your fellow humans and the way things are and the way things work. Remember who you are. And also grow wild. As well as seek the truest self. Then there's this focus, right, that has this person there. And I think the focus here is actually this spreading. Right? This is this truest self of you. And that your focus is to spread that, to allow it to be seen, to meet people's gaze with your true self. To look people in the eye, to allow people to look into your eyes and see your true self. There's a sense of the removal of barriers. But at the same time, there may be a distancing that happens a little bit. I don't know, there's a yes and thing here. On the one hand, I think you're going to really feel kinship with people. I think you are going to have the capacity to be really intimate and connected to people. To be in loving relationships. And at the same time, you're going to be just a little bit removed, perhaps. I mean, maybe not from everybody, because there's, you know, you're not alone. Other people are going through this process. But with this grow wild, it's really more of a sense that you can walk away at any moment. I was actually having this thought. I've been listening to a mystery novel that takes place in the early Victorian period. And I was thinking about how the aristocracy were a little bit trapped. You know, they just didn't know how to do stuff. You know, they might actually not know how to, you know, light a fire properly, or how to make dinner, or how to clean their clothes. That there was this real, and it was this, you know, they were beholden to their servants. They didn't always treat them very well, sometimes quite poorly. And in many ways, the poor were trapped by, it was this kind of mutually trapped situation. Because both sides couldn't, you know, you kind of couldn't live without each other. And yet there was resentment around that. So this, I don't know, there's something about that. And about how we are in society with one another. But there's also the knowledge that you're not like that. You have skills. In not so much practical skills, but mental and emotional ones. You can be alone. You can stand alone. You can be firm in your own beliefs, in your own integrity. You do not require others to validate you, to approve of you. You've maybe learned where real connection is to be found and that it's not in those places. It's not about approval or fitting in. Right? This kind of birds of a feather thing where you fit in. That it is your ability to be alone, to honor your own values, your own integrity, that really allows you also to be in deep connection with others. Oh, this passage of Pluto through Aquarius, I think, is going to be really unexpected. It's beginning here with this relationship to Neptune particularly, but also Saturn in Aries, the sextile there, and then the trine to Uranus in Gemini. That this is the spark, the beginning of Pluto's passage through Aquarius. And here is the desert, that place of aloneness when it's necessary. And that you can always go there. Below that is sanctuary. And then at the bottom is deep rest. The strength of your inner world, of your own knowing of yourself, of who you are. Not just as, you know, a soul here on earth and all of that spiritual kind of stuff, but knowing who you are in terms of what you believe is right and true. How you want to have relationships. Ancient muse. Soul truths, higher self, deep inspiration. Right? These flowers that are just growing out of you. You can't stop them. This bounty is just going to, like those flowers here, to coming out of your crown. There's also something about maybe past lives. And I think it can be many different things. It can be that you have that you've sort of gone through this journey many times in different spaces and different cultures. Or maybe you had past lives where you remained very rigid through your whole life. Or past lives where you compromised frequently in order to fit in. But that there may be something about these themes that has been of real interest to your soul stream. Exploring all the different facets of belonging and fitting in and hermiting and, perhaps you were a nun or a monk in one life and an anchorite in another, and political leader in another, a soldier. That you've been, I think, exploring these themes for a long time. And that you can lean into that. And maybe you can even explore it a little bit. We have this nostalgic release, which says healing the past, relationships, sensory memories. There may be ways in which these previous experiences, previous lives, and maybe even in this life, maybe you can really see now how you've been exploring these themes even in this life. What was it like to be in school? Were you part of an in-group or were you on the outs? Do you come from a family with lots of siblings, or are you an only child? And there's something here about how these past experiences, perhaps past lives, can really help you now in moving forward, if you will allow them to come forward. Maybe in a shamanic journey, you could journey, or maybe it's coming through in your dreams. You could think about dreams that you're having, write them down. You could imagine, you could write a short story about someone with a past life. I don't know, there's something that's coming to mind is The Lake House. Is that what it's called? Or The House on the Lake? It's a movie with Keanu Reeves and I don't remember the actress. But it's this kind of time travel thing where they write to each other through time. They both live in the lake house, but at different times. And they have other connections in the past. Sandra Bullock. And it's I don't know, I really loved the movie. There was certainly something mystical about it. But you could write letters to yourself, perhaps. You could watch the movie. I don't know, there's ways, it seems to me, to tap into these previous lives you know, to ask them for help now. I don't know, I feel suddenly very emotional. Like these lives are reaching out in some way to speak to you. And then we have hidden portal. Alternate routes, look closer, creative solutions. That there's something available through this mystic space. Something that will open a new possibility that you simply hadn't considered. And I think that you are really embracing, in a way that you never have before, this journey that you're on. I really wish there was another word. I feel like so many of the words we use are overused. You know, process sounds too clinical. This unfolding, because we have fire. And you know, there's this heart here, if you can see it, in the middle. There's something here about recognition. Recognition of the heart and the heart's desire. Below that is the arrow. Launched, I think, by your heart. The bottom is the staff. The recognition that every life has this meaning to it. That there is a desire. I don't want to call it a longing, because there's like a little bit of resistance to longing. You know, it feels like something that's too far away, or you can't reach it, you're longing for it, yearning. I want to say desire, right? That's juiciness. You have a desire, you can absolutely have it. And you can enjoy the anticipation of it as well. That every life has this. And you're really beginning to appreciate, in a way that you haven't before, all the experiences that you've had up until now. I mean, it may be that you've had some resentment, and I don't blame you. There was probably some really difficult stuff, especially when you were tiny and had no choices. But you are now really beginning to appreciate the whole thing. To grasp this staff of authority. That previously you were kind of, maybe you were wandering around in a fog, you were, searching for things, digging for things, feeling a little bit out of control maybe, or, at the mercy of things. And now there's this sense of like grasping the staff. That you know, your soul has had the staff all along. Soul retrieval. Now, from my perspective, the soul doesn't go anywhere. It's the human self that kind of has to be retrieved. The soul is what holds the light. The soul has put a lantern in the window. You know, I sometimes talk about this, the whole butterfly thing. There's this idea that butterflies, they go into the chrysalis and they turn into goo. That it's this complete undoing. And it's actually not true. I think it's actually cooler than that. If you were to cut open a caterpillar, you would see in its late, you know, just before, right when it's later stages, you would see little proto wings inside the caterpillar. There is no goo, or at least not the whole thing. That which you are going to become is already there. You do not, it is not a complete undoing. The seeds of what you will become have been there. And the chrysalis phase, some of the caterpillar turns to goo in the sense that it is consumed. It's used as fuel to power the remaining changes, to power the growth of those parts that already exist. So the wings are there, they just need to get bigger. The legs are there. The whole butterfly really is inside the caterpillar. And then it grows and it uses everything that the caterpillar was as fuel, as power. And then, you know, another thing they say, that the butterfly has to like break out of the cocoon in order for the wings to be strong enough. That's also a lie. And I know this because I actually had a butterfly grow in my apartment a couple of summers ago. The caterpillar came home with me on something I bought at the farmer's market. And I watched her grow. She grew several times, shed her layers, and then her final layer was the chrysalis. And then when she was a butterfly, she just made this little hole at the top of the cocoon, and she slipped out. Unfurled her wings, and then let them dry. And then she was ready to go. So even in this spiritual sphere, we have all these metaphors that make things harder than they need to be. Right here with the journey, too. Right? It's all about the heart. Two different decks. It's all about the heart. This one too, actually. and then magic. You know, and this feels like the butterfly. This, you know, full understanding of what has been happening and of the possibilities. Queen of Cups, and this is your soul, has been waiting. Well, not waiting. That has been with you every moment and has been in anticipation of this moment when your human self sees, when you come out of the chrysalis, gently. You don't have to bust out. Right? These two best friends. Now below this is this Five of Cups disappointment, but also the Wheel of Fortune. So don't feel like you're late or that you should have figured this out years ago or any of that stuff. Don't even entertain any of that. The wheel is turning now. All the power is now. And there's the staff showing up again, this time visibly as the Ace of Wands. And that inspiration, that power, that imagination, vision. You've got it, you have it. And you're showing up here as both in the group and then alone. This yes and. And that is an Aquarius theme, the ability to be your own self, be an individual, and also be part of the group. To be intimate, to be deeply connected, but to know your own mind. The shadow of Aquarius is groupthink. Well, there's two shadows. One is having to be completely different. The constant rebel, the constant iconoclast. I can never be like anybody else, ever, is one possible shadow. Or, you know, the constant need for innovation. The constant need to be looking ahead. And then another shadow is groupthink. I must agree with everybody else. Everybody else, we must all be in agreement, right? It's the Borg. And you are learning to hold those two things in tension with each other, in balance with each other, to dance together. So, Princess of Discs, manifestation. Bringing this into practical application. How does this enter into the real world, into how you create, how you think about manifestation, how you interact with other people, and then the moon, the mystery. You know, here again, there's this yes and, right? There's the moon appears in both, but You know, here it's about bringing something into physical reality. And this is more about mystery and beauty. Being the mystic. You know, Hildegard of Bingen is actually a great example. She was a mystic. She had visions. She was a composer and an artist. But she was also a gardener and an herbalist who wrote about the healing of the body, who wrote about this combination of earth and spirit, who talked about the viriditas, the power of God, the power of the life force that runs through everything. That these things are not separate. And then the Two of Wands with planning. And this is meeting some other wand. Right? You've got yours, and you're going to join up with somebody else who's got their own wand. It might be somebody very specific in particular, or it could be that you that this is a repeated thing, that you go out into the world and you meet different people and you have this experience. There is something too, we've had this homecoming theme, and now there's something new opening up about collaboration, about this coming into a bigger sphere. I did a pick a card reading called What's Blossoming, and there was an underlying thing about how what's blossoming for you is taken into the group or in with another person. Advice. Formal advice, because we've had some. Homecoming. And it's interesting, you know, there's these birds, right, in both of these. But this feels, you know, all of these birds are different. There's all different kinds of birds here. Being the individual within the group. Below that, conscious life. I mean, that's really at the heart of it all. Doing things deliberately, consciously, mindfully, rather than on automatic pilot. I mean, I think that is really at the basis of this idea of the consciousness change. The bottom is lesson, but this card always feels more like, you know, enjoying. Having fun while learning. Learning through fun, rather than learning through efforting of any kind. The Empress, of course. You know, this is how she creates. Right? How it all grows within her and around her. You know, both deliberately what she desires, and then also what the earth itself, what all the beings of earth desire. The Ace of Pentacles, creating the new. And there's also something here, you know, her dress seems like, right, it's a flower that she's, you know, it's like she's turning into, or she's, I don't know, I guess it's like she's growing out of a rose. but I want to say that she's actually turning into a rose. I think that's that understanding, this change from caterpillar to butterfly. Becoming the rose. And then we have the crone, who's the final stage. In the maiden, she's grasping this string. In the mother, she's being carried by it. And then here, this is working with. So maturing into this grasping of the staff. And then the watchers, there you are, in your red dress. So bringing it into the group in whatever way that happens for you. You know, whether it's a small group or a big group, whether it's, you know, maybe it's a small group and it ripples out, however it is. And then guidance. Right? This following the heart, following the star that is yours. And that guidance, not anybody else's. You're not following anybody else's star, you're following yours. And that, again, it does not mean that you're always alone or that you're forever veering off from the group. It means that you have the ability to do that, and that is how you make decisions. I'm having this notion to pull something. I don't know. Let's see what comes out. It feels maybe like a gift from your soul, from your fellowship. Oh, and there's your soul, the Queen of Cups. Who's underneath? Oh, the Four of Swords. So that is a little bit of a nod to this kind of meditative or dream-based connecting up with those past lives. Oh, the Sun. The Nine of Wands. And the High Priestess. So maybe there are some of you who really don't feel this yet. Maybe it's all of you. I think this probably will in some ways feel like confirmation. Certainly to your own soul it will feel like confirmation. But then maybe you are kind of in this Nine of Wands space. And this is reassurance that this clarity, this vision, this connection to your own soul, to this wider self, to understanding, is imminent. And I want to say that there really isn't anything that you need to do. I mean, there is this exploration of past lives, I think, is not necessary. That it's something interesting that you can do, but that it's actually going to come after this initial realization, right? That this is like this flower opening. 4444 on the timer is is this understanding. And then after that, that there will be, you know, the possibility of exploring, of really, really stepping into it fully. But that the realization is imminent and you do not need to do anything other than be open and to follow the guidance, follow the heart's desire. Aquarius. Aquarius the mystic. I think it's just what we need. I wish you all the very, very best, Aquarius, and I will see you next time. So long.